Welcome to another installment of the Breaking Muscle podcast, where we bring you insights from some of the leading coaches in strength and conditioning. I am Pete Hitzeman, managing editor at breakingmuscle.com, and hosting today's show is our leading contributor and noted rare stamp collector, Shane Trotter. The world of strength training tends to be filled with burly, bearded, serious-looking men who scowl and grunt as they quote chapter and verse about why you should train, lift, eat, and live a certain way. And then there's Tony Gentilcore. Tony was co-founder of Cressey Sports Performance and is known for his no-BS, irreverent approach to strength development. He now runs Core, a strength studio in Boston, where he trains clients from all walks of life in how to walk their life better. Tony believes there's no reason to overcomplicate your training program, and he and Shane discuss why your kid needs an off-season. They also dive into the importance of choosing the best tools to reach your fitness goals, and Tony goes off on the biggest fitness myth that makes him want to slam his face into a brick wall. While the rest of the world concentrates on being as unobtrusive and inoffensive as possible, Tony expounds on the importance of authenticity, even if you're authentically weird. He discusses why training without a performance goal is a one-way ticket to nowhere, and reveals the biggest key to any successful program design. If you've enjoyed the shows we've brought you so far, don't forget to head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave us a review and a rating. And as always, if you have any feedback for the show, hit us up at editorial@breakingmuscle.com.
I'm today's host, Shane Trotter, and today I'm excited to be chatting with strength and conditioning extraordinaire Tony Gentilcore. Tony was a co-founder of Cressey Sports Performance. He's been featured on countless websites and speaking tours, and his site, TonyGentilcore.com, is without a doubt the funniest fitness-related reading you'll ever come across. Tony, it's awesome to have you on.
Shane, it's a pleasure. I love the intro. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir, of course. And also, I should say, I checked your website today, and I see you've been ambushed by podcasts. So I really do appreciate you taking the time.
I love it. Like it's it keeps me busy. It makes me feel relevant. So it's a stroke to my ego. It's my pleasure.
Right on. We all need that. So first, I just wanted to kind of get a feel for your trajectory, what brought you here, and if there were any specific life events that were really foundational in your fitness journey to today, and also getting you into the fitness industry.
Wow, it's I think my trajectory was very similar to a lot of people in this field. Like they grew up playing a lot of sports. You know, I'm at an age where I watched a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies back in the 80s. So Predator, Commando, Terminator. I watched those movies a lot, and
Sure.
I think played a little bit of a role in my inclination to gravitate towards the weight room and hopefully have the opposite sex kind of pay more attention to me, which didn't happen, but I got better at sports, so it was a win.
There you go.
You know, I always joke that my parents bought me my first weight set when I was around 13, and it was like this little cement doohickey thing that went into our basement, and it came with a poster, and I basically just looked at the pictures and followed that routine. I look back at my young training career, and I honestly don't remember reading a lot of like Flex magazine or Muscle and Fitness, because I grew up in a very small town in central New York in the Finger Lakes region. So, you know, like my neighbor was, it was almost like half a mile away. Like I basically had to entertain myself and just figure stuff out. So
Sure.
I did that, played a lot of sports. You know, I remember a lot of arm curls to Stone Temple Pilots and 90s hip hop back in the day. So, you know, that just bled into playing high school sports. I was lucky enough to play collegiate baseball, and eventually got a degree in health education, got a job at a commercial, or actually a corporate fitness center, as well as a commercial gym. So I spent the first 5 years of my career as a personal trainer, learning the ropes, trying to get better, you know, hating life too. Everyone, there's like this ladder in the as a personal trainer, where it's like you think you know what you're doing when you first start, and you quickly realize you don't. And but anyway, yeah, I eventually crossed paths with a guy named Eric Cressey, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners know that name. And he and I, along with Pete Dupuis, opened Cressey Sports Performance in 2007, and I was there for 8 years. I left in the fall of 2015, and now I own my own small studio here in Boston, where I just tell people to lift heavy things. They pay me to do that, and life is good.
Yeah, because heavy things won't lift themselves, right?
Yeah, great tagline. I did not come up with that tagline either. A friend of mine did, and I was like, "That is brilliant! I'm stealing it," and it stuck. So it's an awesome tagline. I'm glad he let me steal it from him.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is. You mentioned Pete Dupuy and Cressey Sports Performance, which is an unreal presence and so important too for the baseball population, especially.
Oh, yes.
I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and I can't promote that enough to parents, because especially in the baseball softball world, there's a lot of mistreatment. There's a lot of pulls. Parents feel like they have to provide what's best for their kids, and they often don't know what it is because they're being told by a billion different people they have to be in this football league. And strength and conditioning is very misunderstood.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'd like to think that we played a little bit of a role because, again, this was back in 2007. That we just came to fruition and realized that it was an underserved population, and it made a lot of sense because Eric, with his background with shoulders and being kind of a shoulder guy, it made a lot of sense to kind of gravitate to that demographic. And we saw an underserved population, and ironically, I was the only one of the staff that actually played baseball past like Little League. So, so I had the baseball background, which helped. And it certainly, you're correct in that it was kind of like a because that's the way I did it, so everyone else has to do it this way. It's very like old school in its approach to strength and conditioning. I mean, I was a pitcher in college, and I just remember, okay, you guys go run pulls and run, and I was that guy. And I look back at how I trained in college, and I'm like, man, I wish I could go back in time and like get in my DeLorean and go back into time and and just like drop kick myself in the face and just be like, dude, stop running. But yeah, thank you. I know. It definitely grew to something that we had no idea it would balloon up to what it ended up being. But it was quite an honor to be there and work with all of them, the whole gauntlet from Major League guys all the way down. I think even the most rewarding thing was seeing guys that started training with us in 8th grade make it all the way up into getting drafted. Like that was kind of the coolest thing. I mean, yeah, it's cool when you get big league guys coming in, but I'm not going to take credit for that. Like, I definitely will take credit for a high school kid that started me in 8th grade and worked his way up. Like, absolutely. So that was a very rewarding thing. And yeah, I think if you say baseball, strength and conditioning, you'd be hard pressed not to have Cressey Sports Performance, be listed as one of the top 3, if not the best facility in the country. So thank you. Without
a doubt, and it's such an important message that's promoted constantly. That just in regards to fall ball, which there's got to be a time where you put athletic development first.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of conversations we have with parents. Like
yes.
Even the major league guys have an off season. Like, a fully developed human being has an off season, and your kid is 13. He needs an off season.
Sure. So he can't skip yet. He forgot how to skip.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the early specialization too.
Oh yeah, and like, it's funny too. I think one of the best phrases I ever heard was via Eric Schoenberg, who's one of the physical therapists that we work with a lot at Cressey Sports Performance, and he and Matt Blake and Eric Cressey do their baseball mentorship. And I, of course, I sat in on numerous iterations of that. And I remember a line that Eric Schoenberg said, and that you hear this a lot, like, we got to work on arm care exercises, or what do we have to do to work on our arm care? And he's like, well, the second you only throw a baseball with your arm, then we'll worry about arm care. Like we have to look at the whole body, the whole system. Right. Playing that sport doesn't just involve the right or left arm. There's a lot of other moving parts there. So
body's one piece.
Exactly. So it's I was lucky to be involved and surrounded by a bunch of smart guys and girls. I was very fortunate.
I'm curious as to your opinion. There's something I tell a lot of my baseball parents. So I always have a parent meeting with them. One of the things I tell them is that baseball does not build athleticism as much as basketball, soccer, football. It just does not build athleticism. Now, athleticism kills in baseball. It will separate you from the pack. But just as the playing of the sport itself will not create athletes as much as many other sports do, which is why it's so important to not specialize. But if you are specializing, it's why it's so important to have a strength and conditioning program.
Yes, I can't disagree with any of that.
Okay.
I mean, I think you've probably seen the same stats that I've seen, that a lot of the top draft picks and even the top players that are in the big leagues now were multi-sport athletes. I don't know what better message there is to send to the younger generation when, you know, all these first-round draft picks were multiple sport athletes, whether we're talking NFL, MLB, NBA. A lot of those top guys making it to the echelon of what all we aspire to get to were multiple sport athletes. And yeah, like in baseball in particular, you know, I remember, because you're right, I get it all the time, like, what baseball-specific exercises do we have to do to get them to be a better baseball player? And I always just say, that's not what we do here. We make your kid a better athlete, and then the baseball thing just kind of like takes care of itself, like playing the sport takes care of itself.
Yes.
And if anything,
the sport specific is the sport.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, you kind of get that like quizzical dog look from the parent, where they kind of tilt their head, like, what are you talking about? And then of course, like, you're right, baseball, you know, we can look at a Major League Baseball game. Yeah, some of the guys aren't in great shape, and it's hard to imagine that, or a lot of the parents to recognize that it is an explosive sport. So a lot of times, another thing that we had to deal with a lot was the whole idea of like steady state cardio and going for runs, and like we got to build his legs and build his conditioning. And it was like, it takes nowhere in that sport. I mean, the longest distance run is 90 feet. So why the hell are we running? Why are they running 3 miles, 5 miles? Right. Like, there's no point in doing that. At least for the long term. Like, I'm not saying there's not a time and place for it. There is, but it is an explosive sport. Like, you know, when a pitcher is dozens, if not hundreds, of repetitions of an explosive output of throwing a baseball to the catcher. You know, and a batter hitting a baseball and running out of the batter's box, sprinting to first base is an explosive, less than 5-second thing. So that's what we have to deal with when we're talking about building athleticism in the sport. It isn't high rep this and going for 5-mile runs. And, you know, unfortunately, that's just like maybe a little bit in my age bracket, but definitely beforehand, the train of thought was like, you know, pitchers go for long runs and they don't lift weights, and no, that's not the case anymore, thankfully.
Sure. Two things there. That first of all, the rest period, which I noticed you wrote a piece this week about getting your clients to actually give the appropriate rest, is so essential with power training in general, staying in that right system. But the other thing is, I think most people, when they think power, they think training power, they think only of Olympic lifts. And I know that for the baseball population, often that's not the best thing, the joint laxity. And
exactly.
I think also most coaches should look at, especially if they're training athletes, they should look at what other ways can I train power that might be take less time to teach, so I have more bang for the buck as far as I can get them training quicker. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more in that, you know, when I was in Cressey Sports Performance, and even now I train a handful of baseball players, and like, yeah, Olympic lifting just isn't a great fit for a lot of baseball players, because when we talk about valgus stress on the elbow and then on the wrist, and there's just a lot of joint stresses that I would rather avoid. You know, do I really think that doing a couple reps of a clean is going to be that detrimental to someone's elbow or arm? No, but when I know there's other things that we could do that are going to get pretty close to the same training effect as far as improving power and power development, like med ball work, that doesn't take a ton of coaching effort to do. That's another thing too that you have to discuss. Is I remember I wrote an article on my blog probably 3 or 4 years ago, admitting, like, here's why I don't train the Olympic lifts. Reason number one is I'm not confident in them. I don't have a lot of experience with them, and as a strength and conditioning coach, it's almost sacrilegious to admit that, which I don't understand. It's like, I'm just being honest. And if someone does come to me and they want to learn the Olympic lifts, I live in an awesome city, and there's plenty of people I can refer them to. And hey, go to so and so and learn the Olympic lifts. But you know, to me, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable teaching an athlete the Olympic lifts. I mean, I could probably finagle the clean, but once we start talking to the clean and jerks and snatching and stuff like that, I just would not be the right person to ask.
Sure.
And as you know, it just takes a lot of time. Like it's a very intricate, technical, heavy movement. All the Olympic lifts. And honestly, like we never knew how long we would have an athlete at Cressey Sports Performance. So why spend all that coaching energy, on those lifts when we could have them throw a med ball, which is a very user-friendly, pretty easy thing to pick up, or kettlebell swings, or working on sprint mechanics. There's definitely or jump training, like box jumps and broad jumps and all that stuff. So all that is going to elicit the characteristic we're trying to improve, which is power and increased rate of force development and all that stuff. So that's what we're going to use, and that's what I currently use.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a natural step in the maturation of a strength coach. At first, I think everyone sees all these tools, all these things. You can kettlebell snatch, you can kettlebell swing, you got to do the Olympic lifts, because everyone knows dogmatically that's the only way to train power. That's the best. And then as you get older, hopefully you start to say, I don't have to do everything. I need to get really good at a few things for each, I guess, outcome I'm looking to train.
Yeah, and that's not, I mean, of course, that's not to say there aren't wonderful resources to learn to do that stuff. Like Will Fleming comes to mind. Like he's a guy that if I were going, like he has a resource called Complete Olympic Training, or I forgot it, but it's great. Like I have it, and I have it on my computer. I definitely delve into it here and there, but it's just I have to look at it from a time standpoint. Like I know I'm not right now, at least I don't have a ton of people coming to my facility where that's going to be a thing. Like right now I'm training more general pop clients who are sitting at a desk all day and have the mobility of the Tin Man. So the likelihood that I'm going to be even teaching them, I mean, they're lucky to get to a kettlebell swing, and let alone doing a clean off of the floor with a barbell. So.
Sure. In the general population, hip hinge is probably just the hardest thing you could possibly teach.
Yeah, exactly. There's certainly they have to be able to deadlift a certain amount of weight first before I feel comfortable with them, even because I always tell people you got to control slow before you control fast. Yeah. So I have to get them to control the slow hip hinge first, and then once they crush that, then we can get into the swing and all that stuff. So I think internet high five to you. I think we're on the same page with power development and all that. So that's good.
Yeah, you're brilliant when it comes to programming, and I think that you're brilliant because you're simplistic. And I think it's one and the same. I don't like writing fancy programs.
Sure. It was always very funny too, because whenever people come to observe me now, or when they came to Cressey Sports Performance, coaches and personal trainers and students would always be like, "Can I look at your programs?" And they would look at them, and we'd be like, "Yeah, go ahead. There they are." And they would be studying them like there was a Cliff Notes crash session on program design. And I think a lot of them were a little perplexed, why it didn't look fancier. Sure. And really, I am dead fast on keeping things simple. And
executing.
Exactly. I mean, really, I don't need to make it any more complicated than it has to be. And why make my life harder?
Sure.
And I think that is a good message that you send, that you brought up, and that there are a lot of young professionals coming up, and they're trying to get people's attention. They feel like they have to write these articulate, intricate, fancy programs. I think if you just get really good at the basics and can coach the shit out of people, people are going to see that. They're going to see that authenticism, and people will stick with you and train with you. And I mean, unfortunately, program design can be this whole. I mean, you and I both know it's a very broad topic. But just keep things simple, crush people's hip hinge, squat, lunge, push, pull, carry. We're good to go.
Yeah. For anyone just starting out, I always give them your program design for dummies, which was.
Oh, thank you. Well, that was probably one of my first teenage back in the day. Yeah. I probably could go back. I mean, certainly I would go back to it and probably be like, I would change this. But for the most part, the shell of that program or the shell of that article, I still agree with.
It works.
Guys like Dan John Russin. They all preach the same message, which is hinge, squat, push, pull, carry, and we could probably add in rotate and certainly maybe some other things too. But I mean, we're talking 6 or 7 categories, and we're not even taking into account foot stance, hand positioning, sets, reps, load, speed. Like I mean, even just with 6 or 7 categories, there's like 101 different ways to train those movements. So, we don't need to be, even that, like you got a lifetime of program design just with that. Like we don't keep it there.
the variations are infinite
exactly.
without the biggest library.
Exactly.
Absolutely. You said authenticity, and I wanted to jump on that. There was one of the funnest things I've read in a long time came out this week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. It was an article from Pete Dupuis. Tony was a weirdo.
Okay, now I was wait, what? Okay, now I remember. Yeah. That was a pleasant surprise. Yeah.
I think it'd be more interesting to hear you explain the article.
Well, I think if I remember the gist of it, like not that I remember everything that's written about me, but
there's so much,
I think
right?
The gist of it was that Pete he was at a business get-together in New York City, and I think at the end of the day, I forget how many presenters there were, probably 4 or 5 or 6. They're all in the front of the room. You do the Q&A, and people ask, well, what do I have to do to make a name for myself in the industry, or how do I get to where you are in your industry? And Pete, I think, mentioned that, all the requisite answers were told, like you got to be patient, you got to put in the hard work, and, which were all consistent, which is all great advice, and I think that's really all the advice most people need to hear. But then it got to Pete, and Pete was like, that's all great, but you have to be authentic to who you are. And he brought up a good example. I think the best example in the industry is a guy like Mark Fisher, who, if the people who are familiar with him know what I'm talking about, but the people who don't, he and his crew in New York City, Mark Fisher Fitness, is probably one of the more zany places to train in the country. And I say that in a good way. Like, this is a facility where it is very serious training. Like, they're talking PRI, they're talking Mel Siff, they're talking Jim Wendler. They're doing sound programming and sound training, but under the umbrella of like capes and unicorns and dildos and dance parties and costumes, and it's just there's really no place at least in the fitness industry like that I've ever come across. And Pete made a point of saying, because Mark was there at this presentation, and Mark's become a big deal. Like that facility has become like, their growth has been phenomenal as far as like a business standpoint. And like people want to know, like, how do you do this? And I think Mark was like, there would be no Mark Fisher Fitness without Tony Gentilcore. And I think the little more of the backstory there is that Mark read my stuff back in the day, and I was kind of one of the first guys writing in fitness that wasn't scared to swear when I wrote or when I spoke, or talk about Star Wars in an article about deadlifts, or include pictures of my cat when I'm talking about shoulder assessment, or pop culture references in general, like being quote weird. Yeah, but I was being authentic to myself. Like I'm being me. Like I very much write how I talk, and I think that resonates with people, and I don't fake it. So when people do meet me in person, hopefully they don't think I'm actually like weird. But but that was more or less the gist of Pete's thing about authenticism, and how that's kind of a lost art, where people are trying to be something they're not. And I think the more you can just be authentic to who you are, whether it's being a guy like myself who's really into strength and conditioning and lifting, but also talking about movies and obsessing about his cat, and putting in like F-bombs here and there, or if you want to be the geeky science guy, do that, or whatever. Like that, you just got to be authentic. I'm
going to read just a blip that I pulled out.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that was so Tony, this is at the beginning of the infancy of Cressey Sports Performance, and it says, Tony was reminded again and again, stop it with the foul language, it's bad for business. Censoring was hurting his ability to convey authenticity, though. Originally, he titled his blog "The G Spot."
I don't know what my brain was thinking at the time. I was like, it'd be great to call my last name starts with the G. I'm gonna call it the G Spot. Like, what the fuck was I thinking? I think it lasted maybe 2 months before I was like, I gotta change that.
Yeah.
That was a little too egregious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it was funny because when I first moved to Boston, I was working at a pretty fancy schmancy commercial gym right in the city. One of my clients worked at the Boston Herald, and they were like, hey, we're looking for somebody to do some fitness writing for our website. So they set me up on a blog on the Boston Herald's website, It was called Step Up. So some people would actually, I've had a lot of people read, like when they make comments on my blog, oh, I've been following you since the Step Up days. And I remember getting my wrist slapped a few times there too, because I would drop a couple swearies and but yeah, every time I do it, and then because eventually I think what Pete said too is like we eventually put my blog, Eric's blog, and Brian St. Pierre's blog on the blog roll on Cressey Sports Performance's website, so people could see like daily content. Like, oh, what did Eric have to say today? What did Tony say? And Eric Pete got to the point where it was like, yeah, Tony saying F this, F that wasn't good for business as far as like parents reading the website, which I totally understood. I was like, I get it. And I tried to stop. I really did. But it was just so hard for me. And mind you, like I don't feel like I'm not like profane. Like all I do is like swear on my writing. Like I remember my editor at Teen Nation, Brian Cron at the time. He said it is an art. Like if you like he's like I'm all for F-bombs and that, but it's got to fit. Like it's got to make.
Don't force it.
You can't just say the F-bomb to say it. But I think we can all agree that a strategically placed F-bomb can be a beautiful thing. So yeah, eventually Pete, he understood where I was coming from, and we, when he read that, literally I think I got a little teary-eyed when I read that last week. I was like, that is really cool for him to write that, and for Mark to say what he said too, a lot, because Mark's he's phenomenal. It's really, for that to come out of his mouth means a lot.
So another one of your funny-isms in your writing is I feel like slamming my face into a brick wall every time I see exercise or whatever it is. So what exercises or fitness or health myths most make you want to slam your face into a brick wall?
Oh, now? Man, I gotta think. It always changes. I think my biggest pet peeve then and now is just the whole idea. Whenever I see people be like, "Oh, deadlifts are so dangerous. I can't believe you have your clients deadlift. They're gonna ruin your back." And I don't mind, honestly, like when regular people say that, I get it. Like they don't know any better. They see a guy deadlifting 500 pounds on YouTube, like what the hell? That's going to ruin someone's back. I hate it when I see people within the industry saying that, and I see it more. I do see it in strength and conditioning, but I see it more physical therapy, chiropractors, and mind you, not all of them. I'm not lumping them into this category of like, fuck you, like you don't know what you're talking about. Not at all. But I do see it, like I've written several articles in the past where, I back it up with McGill research, and Brett Contreras comes in and we talk about it, and like this, no, if you think about the deadlift, it's a hip hinge. We're dissociating hip movement from lumbar movement, and if you do proper progressions with proper load, with the appropriate variation based off someone's anatomy, ability level, injury history, there are millions of people who have done a deadlift with that have never been hurt. And whenever I see somebody like, oh, deadlifts are bad for everyone, I'm like, no, that's not correct. It's a blanket statement. It would be just as bad if I said deadlifts are great for everyone. Like I don't do that. Like I don't know why people think when I say a deadlift is not a bad exercise or insinuate I'm saying it's for everyone, because it's not. Like I think any competent coach does an assessment, figures out, okay, where is movement awry here? Like, can we clean that up, or can they own a certain position? And if so, then yeah, maybe a deadlift to them is a kettlebell deadlift or a trap bar deadlift, or it's just a body weight hinge to a wall. Like that is a deadlift. It's a hip hinge. It's all we're talking about. I'm not automatically assuming a barbell heavy on the floor conventional. Like that to me is not, that's like the most advanced. Like if you're top, you know your shit, you know what you're doing, yes, that's fine. But there are progressions and variations, and that's the beautiful thing about the deadlift. It's so easily catered to the ability level and the anatomy of the individual that, unless you're a power lifter or an Olympic lifter, you don't have to be using a straight bar off the floor. That's kind of the message I keep conveying. And I think it's getting better, but there's still every now and then, oh, deadlifts are dangerous, and then they start talking, oh, it's just bro bullshit, and hurt yourself, and I hurt myself, and and we all know, like, when someone hurts themselves, more than likely they probably weren't doing it correctly, and or they weren't coached well, or I can only go off of my own experiences as a coach, and I don't see it ruining people's spines all that much. So, that's probably my biggest pet peeve is that in the past and currently.
Yeah. Well, and to go back to the Olympic lifting, so many people want to power clean, but they don't realize that they have to be able to deadlift first. And they'll write off deadlift. Well, we don't deadlift in our program. Those hurt your back. We're an Olympic lifting or we're based in the Olympic.
Yeah. Well, what's the first thing of the power clean? Yeah, you're right. It's a fucking deadlift, idiot. Like, come on.
And I would argue that everyone needs to at least be taught the hinge.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the bigger point there, Shane. Like, that is definitely the bigger, because once someone owns the hinge, like, their exercise toolbox opens up infinitely more. Like, their movement capacity just makes it so that they're able to do more stuff. Yeah, that's exactly the bigger picture there. Really, all we're talking about is a hinge, and that's what I keep conveying. It's like, no, I'm not just talking about the straight bar loaded conventional deadlift. Like, there's a lot of interpretation here.
Well, but as society gets more sedentary and people hurt their backs all the time lifting babies off the ground, lifting laundry off the ground. There has to lifting a bag of mulch off the ground. If we made the hip hinge, teaching the hip hinge a mandatory middle school curriculum, we're gonna pick up our backpacks today. We could do away with a lot of the back pain. So in that regard, teaching the deadlift is actually the best thing you can do for your back.
I couldn't agree more.
Interesting how those.
But as far as like stuff that makes me want to throw my face into a wall, that would be a good one.
That's at the top of the list right now.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I like to. I'm in education, so I like to kind of steer the conversation sometimes to the public. What are some of the health-related or strength and conditioning-related issues that you're seeing in the public sphere, or that programs we might be able to implement for the public, some of the public problems that you see working with the general population most often? What are those issues we're seeing?
I mean, I think across the board, I think a lot of people would agree with me that we're going to see some predictive movement impairments, certain muscles that are tight, and like mobility restrictions. So, of course, like hip flexor length, glute activation, T-spine extension, ability to bring arms overhead, shoulder flexion. Those are going to be stuff that across the board are going to be awry. So I think anything we can do to implement because really how I explain to a lot of my Gen Pop people is like, you're sitting in X position all day, hunched over, shoulders roll forward, rounded back, head poking forward. So anything we do in the gym should be to open you up. Standing, I hate it when people sit all day at work and then they go to the gym and then they sit more. They sit on a recumbent bike. They sit on a lat pull-down machine. They do crunches. They sit. Like, they need to stand. I think that in of itself, just getting people to stand and getting people out of shoes and having them just carry stuff, that's about as simple as it can get. And honestly, that's going to be more than a training effect for a big portion of the general population, just because they're sitting in that hunched over flex position all day. So I'm all for, yes, let's get your glutes to turn on. Let's working on your T-spine extension and opening up a little bit more. Let's do more push-ups instead of bench pressing. I think that's a much more shoulder healthy way of approaching training. Let's coach you in a goblet squat. I've yet to meet an individual that I couldn't teach a goblet squat to in less than 5 or 10 minutes. And for a lot of people, that's going to be more than enough of a training effect. And I would argue that once they get to a goblet squat and we revert to a double kettlebell anterior loaded squat, like, that sucks. Like, that is. I did them today in my training. All I had was two 24-kilogram kettlebells, and I did 2 kb front squats. And for 12 reps, like, I'm like, man, you get a huge training effect for a minimal amount of load, which I like. I think. Yeah. I'm all for coaching the back squat and the front squat. Like, I do that. Don't get me wrong, but I need to work people up to that point. And that's another thing, is that when you're working with a lot of general pop, and especially in a city like Boston or bigger cities where there's a lot of like type A individuals, lawyers and doctors and businessmen and just money guys, and they're like, go, 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 I want you to crush me. If anything, my job as their coach is to pump the brakes a little bit and be like, no, we're going to rest. we're going to chill out. We're going to take our time and do this stuff correctly. And it takes a little. It might take a couple weeks because they just want to go. I want you to kill me. I want to be huffing and puffing, and that's
Sure.
not what they need. We need to recover.
Sure.
And just teaching people the importance of that goes a very, very long way. And then, of course, there's a little nudging of like, what can we do outside of the gym as far as improving sleep quality, improving hydration, trying to get them to learn some more nutritional strategies that are going to get them to the goal. Like, I'm a big fan of process goals, which is something I learned from Greg Nuckols. Yeah. Another person who I heard it from was Nancy Newell, who's at Cressey Sports Performance. But I love the approach because, say someone's goal is to deadlift X amount of weight or to run a 5K or whatever goal we can think of, like a performance-based goal, which I'm all for. I'm always for performance-based goals. I hate when people come in, oh, I want to lose some weight or I want to lose some fat. Like, I'm like, no, we're going to figure out an actual tangible goal. Like, for a lot of my women that I train with, we're going to do a strict body weight chin-up. Like, that's what our goal. Our goal is going to be training towards that.
Sure.
So that's rule number one. But then...
Sure. Wait. Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why the chin-up? Because I think I can see where you're going with this, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think because a lot of time, at least in my experience, a lot of women have been programmed to think that they can't do a chin-up because they're a girl, and that they've been engendered in a way where it's like, because if you recall, at least when I was in high school and elementary school, I remember the yearly fitness tests. What did the boys do?
Sure.
They did chin-ups and pull-ups. And what do the girls do? Oh, we're just going to do the arm hang because you're a girl. So they're kind of programmed at an early age, like, oh, girls don't do chin-ups. And then it becomes a thing where it's like they're scared of it. I'm not saying this is the case for all women. Like, hopefully people aren't taking it that way. But I just find that when I say that, I say, what about a chin-up? They're like, yeah, I want to be able to do a chin-up. That'd be awesome. And I have found that the amount of work and effort and just dedication it takes to hit that body weight chin-up, a lot of their aesthetic goals that they usually say, like, oh, I want this flab in my triceps to go away or my underarm to go away, or I want to look better in a swimming suit, or whatever the case may be, a lot of those aesthetic goals happen without like saying that we're training for that. We're training to crush a chin up, or we're training to deadlift your body weight for reps, whatever the case. That it's like a switch that turns on, and I love it. And it's it's just very empowering too. Like I prove to them that they can do it more often than that, quicker than they think they can, and then it just gives their training purpose. That's right. Another thing. Like if they walk into the gym, they know, like, this is why my program is written in this way, because the goal is to be able to do a fucking chin up. Then it just gives them a little bit more, what's the word, like accountability, and just like oomph to get to the gym, and because they know there's a reason why they're going. They're not just going in like, well, I guess I want to do this today and do a little bit of that, and that's a one-way ticket to nowhere. I think just perform, and again, that's just a goal that I tend to default to with a lot of my female clients. But it could be anything. It could be 10 push-ups or squatting X amount of weight or whatever. Like I don't force them to say, yeah, you're doing a chin-up. But but I do find them I think gravitating or latching on to performance-based goals in the gym. I mean, I'm a strength conditioning coach. It only makes sense that that's what I'm going to do. Everyone's kind of in it to look better. Let's not forget that. Like, we always want to look better to the opposite sex or same sex, and we just want to look better and like look better naked or whatever. There's always that little vein.
Any strength coach who doesn't admit that that's why they got into it when they were in high school.
Yeah,
they're lying.
Yeah, of course. So I just find that, again, that stuff just kind of happens without me having to be like talking about it all the time. It's like, okay, they're working their ass off to hit that goal, and then all of a sudden they're leaner, they have more muscle, and they look fantastic. Like it's an amazing thing.
Well, the other stuff is always going to be there. They're, like you said, in the back of their head, they're always going to have that desire to look a certain way. The other cool thing is when you own that chin up, that's awesome. Now you're excited. Now you're slapping hands, and you've given each other a really cool moment. there's a positive connotation that comes from this.
It's
a tangible outcome.
Exactly, and it's more buy-in. Like that's goal. Okay, we just hit that, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna get to 5, and now we're gonna work on your deadlift or whatever. It's just like they become hungry. And this is guys too. Like, don't get me wrong. I've had plenty of guys that come in who can't do a chin up, and it's like let's crush your chin up. Let's do it. And it's it's a cool thing. It's just just proving to people that they can do shit rather than telling them that they're constantly broken. And you want to talk about another, going back to another pet peeve of mine that makes me again throw my face into a wall, whatever. It's just trainers who are incessantly focusing on the minutia and pointing out every little thing that someone sucks at. Like, oh, your big toe dorsiflexion isn't great, your hip flexors are tight, your ankles don't have great this.
As a way of showing that they know something.
Like, I'm smart. You should train me. I'm going to fix this, and this, and this. Like, people walk out of the session like wondering how the hell they can walk downstairs, right? I mean, it happens. I mean, and I'll admit that I used to be that guy myself. I talk shit about it because I used to be that guy. And I would. Why am I not getting clients? Like, what the hell? I'm smart. I know what I'm talking about. Because I was an asshole. And I was, who's going to train me when all I do is spend an hour telling them how much they suck at everything they're doing, and then I'm going to be the guy that's going to fix them. If anything, like, the more success you can show your clients during the assessment, in their training, the better off. The better off they're going to be loyal, and it's a magical thing. Like, if everyone would just keep that in the back of their mind to show your clients and your athletes success, that would solve a lot of issues.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you do when you have that client who what you're explaining to them as their needs, as what would be their primary needs, is a far departure from what they expected? Like you said, you have the type A guy. He comes in, and like most people nowadays, they think calories are evil, and their primary metric for a workout is how bad do I hate myself when I'm doing it? How hard is it? Yep.
Basically, it comes down to meeting them where they're at. I'm lucky in that I have a wife who's a sports psychologist, so she can speak. This, I mean, not to suggest this, but you need to invite her on your show because she talks. Yeah. She talks. I mean, that's her exercise motivation, sports psychology. She's brilliant when it comes to that stuff, so she can speak to that a little bit more than I can. But when I do have a client like that, it is about meeting them where they are. So it is kind of giving them a little bit of what they want. Because we have to remember that this is a service-based industry. Nick Tuminello speaks about this often, where I kind of gravitate more towards the powerlifts and the big three. I'm not a powerlifter. I've never competed in powerlifting, but those, like the squat, bench, and deadlift, are kind of the ones me personally, I tend to gravitate towards. So,
sure.
I kind of nudge people a little bit towards those lifts. And then if you look at a bodybuilder, they tend to train people in more of like body part splits and bicep day and calf day and upper back day.
Well, if you're just looking to engage the biggest muscles, though, those three will take care of life.
Of course. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a service-based industry. So if you're a trainer and coach and you're a bodybuilder or you're a powerlifter, you can't just train your clients the same way. You have to meet the client where they are, do what they want to do. It's their goals, not yours, and listen to them. But I'd be lying if I said like I'm definitely trying to sneak in the stuff that I think they should be doing. And there's tactful ways of doing that. So most guys when they come in, they want to bench press. Like, no matter, I mean, I'm not going to talk guys out of bench pressing. It's just not going to happen. I could be like, hey, you got tight pecs, you have round shoulders, like, we need to do more of this. Like, no, I want to bench press. So we'll bench press, but maybe we'll just go dumbbells, because then it is going to allow them to get a little bit more external rotation and be a little bit more shoulder friendly. Or maybe we'll just use a football bar. It won't be a straight bar, but it's a barbell. And we'll bench press that way. But then, while they're quote-unquote resting, instead of just sitting there talking about Game of Thrones, we're going to do some low-grade mobility exercises that is going to address the stuff that I think they should be addressing. And they're not gonna know any of the wiser. Like they're just gonna think it's the session and whatever. But I'm sprinkling in the stuff that I think they need to be doing, and being a little sneaky about it. and then I'm giving it a little bit of what they want. And really, at the end of the day, it comes down to building autonomy and competency, right? So autonomy is people want to feel like they're doing stuff on their own volition. Like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, I don't want to be told what to do.
Sure.
I want choice. And sometimes just giving your clients a little bit more of a choice, it goes a long way. Instead of saying, no, we're doing deadlifts today, and if you say, hey, we're going to deadlift today, but do you want to use a trap bar or do you want to go kettlebells? You give them a little bit more of a choice, then they're going to be like, oh, I think I want kettlebells today. Then they're going to do it. They're going to be more invested in it. And then competency is just, they want to feel that they can do shit, right? So they don't want to be,
success.
Again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about success. So if I know somebody has poor hip mobility or whatever, I'm gonna do a goblet squat to a box. I'm gonna make it successful. I'm gonna show them success. Hey, look, you're squatting. This is a squat. Like, it's a kettlebell. It's to a box. You're squatting. Like, cool, we're good. And then sometimes just giving them a choice at the end of their session. So even if I'm making them do a little bit more of what I want to do, at the end, I'll say, okay, we have 5 or 10 minutes left. We're gonna do gun show, right? Guys love it, right? They love it. Like, they just like, yes. Like, it's like shrugs and triceps and bicep curls for 10 minutes. And it's like just giving them that little bit of like what they want that's what I mean. Like, you don't have to be a jerk about it and be like, no, I'm the coach, you do what I say. Like, there's of course there's a little bit of that, but at
you want to lead them in the right direction.
Exactly. And there's always that educational component. So I'm always trying not to be too much of a jerk about it. Like, I because of where I am in my career, and when people come to me, they're a little bit more invested in their training, so they're a little bit more curious, and they want to know, like, hey, why are we doing this and not that? And I of course I can answer that. Like, there is a rationale for everything I'm putting into a program. Sometimes it's just because I want you to do it. Like, let's be honest. Like, sometimes it's like, I just want you to do a reverse lunge. Like, you're just gonna do it. But there's always an educational component. So I'm always trying to like explain, hey, this is why we're doing a T-spine extension with a stick, so you can get more, or a T-spine mobilization, excuse me, so you can get more extension in your T-spine, which is going to open up your upper extremity a little bit more. So you are going to get more shoulder flexion. Your arms are going to be able to go overhead a little bit easier. So you don't
prevent injuries here.
Yeah, if you put it in the context of like, hey, this is going to help you feel better, or this is going to hopefully make your shoulder feel better, your knee feel better, or whatever the case may be, then more often than not, they're going to be cool with that. Like, I don't have to give it some huge sciencey exercise physiological breakdown. But if I just say, hey, this is going to make your shoulder feel better, then cool. Like, they're going to be okay. That makes sense to me. Let's do it. Like, sure. I don't have to make it more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah, you're meeting them and understanding them where they are, showing them success, understanding what builds buy-in.
That's the key to program design, really. I mean, Eric Helms talked about it in his manual. I think he wrote it last year. People always debate over optimal sets and reps, and what exercise selection, and what order, and what's the optimal rest period, and like loading, and there is a time and place to argue about that stuff. At the bottom, like, he's brilliant. Like, the bottom base component of that pyramid is adherence. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the most important component of program design, is whatever the fuck they're actually going to do. That's the determining factor of program design. And then we can start fiddling with, like, okay, now we're going to exercise order and exercise selection and sets and reps and blah, 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 blah. But that bottom base should be adherence. And then whatever the sets and reps and exercise selection should gear to that. Like, whatever they're going to be more stoked to stick to, or more inclined to stick to, that's the key to program design.
Sure. In the high school setting where I am, I think more and more coaches you got to have the actual principles behind what you're doing.
Of
but
course,
those aren't complicated. I speak on them time to time. I can get you pretty well versed in them in an hour talk. I mean, they're really not that complicated. The basic, simple foundations. And a lot of these coaches will at this level too, they'll think, well, I have them. They got to work out with me. I got them for 4 years. But even in that situation, it's even more important. You got them for 4 years. They're going to fight you tooth and nail for 4 years. I think of freshman athletes. There's a few in particular I can think of who really have excelled. They come in their freshman year, they've excelled in their sport, but they're a specialist and they have all these issues. They can't hold a static split squats for 20 seconds. Not even close to getting their leg to parallel. They can't hold a push-up position plank. They have tremendous issues. And I do a lot of ISO hold circuits initially to teach.
Yep.
But when I'll see it, and a couple of examples come to mind. There's a young athlete who's had a ton of success, and they're failing miserably here, and they're starting to hate being here because they've always been the cool kid who's been good at stuff, and now we're revealing that they have chinks in the armor. And it doesn't mean that I can take that away from them, but gosh, I've got to start sprinkling in stuff they're going to have fun with and have success with.
Yeah, of course.
We might be doing tennis ball reaction drills. I might sprinkle in some sort of basic agility drill that doesn't really have a ton of benefit. I can teach some movement patterns with it, but I know that they like that, and I think
sometimes there's a little appeasement involved, whether it's them or the parents. Like they kind of want to see that. Okay, they're doing the agility ladders. That's cool. We know for the most part that it does nothing but improve their ability to do an agility ladder.
Sure, it's a good warm up though.
Yeah, it gets the heart rate up. Sure, and that again is the graduation of a strength coach. Like you just kind of learn to pick your battles. Right? Like you can't be the cantankerous, ornery, use my way or the highway coach. Like I don't respect coaches that are that way. That are just like very ego driven, like, no, it's my way. You have to low bar squat, you have to do it this way, you have to do this, like No, we don't. Like, I don't like it when I hear coaches pigeonhole themselves into like one corner and it's this way or the highway, and everyone else who does it differently is wrong or don't know what they're talking about. I just think I don't have a lot of respect for, and there aren't many, but I just don't have a lot of respect for people who that's their train of thought and or very combative when you question their modalities. Like, there's a million and one ways to get to any destination. Yeah. So they all work. So don't tell me that it has to be your way only. Like that's just not true.
I was listening. I forget what her name was the other day. She was on a podcast, and I love kettlebells. I mean, I love them. I think it's the funnest way to train, just for me personally.
Yep.
But if that was all I had in my bag of tricks, then I would never get to train this lady. She was saying, I see a kettlebell and I turn the other way.
I mean, I know some people are very successful with it. Don't get me wrong. Like that's cool. But and again, at the other end of the spectrum, I don't think it's smart to be like a jack of all trades either. So I mean, I don't think like that's gonna get you.
You're a strength and conditioning coach.
Right, and I know, and I stay in my lane. Like, I mean, it goes into my writing too. I talk about this all the time. There's a reason why I don't write about nutrition, or I don't write a lot about fat loss. That's not my lane. Like, that's not my area of expertise. Like, I know a lot of people that are very good at that. So if I have a question, or if a person has a question, I say, go ask them, or I'll get the answer for you. I want to get people stronger and moving well. And I get a lot of people who maybe come hurt or post physical therapy, and I'm pretty good with assessing and understanding movement and like figuring out, okay, how, that's another skill, is like learning to program around injury and creating a training effect. Like, I don't care unless it's a very like serious injury. Like, I mean, I remember at Cressey Sports Performance, we had guys who were 2 weeks post Tommy John training. Like, you have another arm, you have a lower body, like, we can still train. Like, that's why I hate it. Like, when, like, I had one of my male clients, he's a doctor, he's been having hip issues for a few weeks, and I was like, you know what? He says, I'm going to go get an image. I was like, that's smart. Like, whatever. It's better to start ruling out stuff. I even guessed, I was like, you probably have some kind of tear in your hip. It's not diminishing your quality of life that much. Like, he feels it here and there, but we trained around it. Like, we were doing hip thrusts, we were doing trap bar deadlift, we were doing lateral band walks and push-ups. Like, we were training. He finally went and got an image. He emailed me yesterday, and he was like, hey, I finally went. They told me I had a labral tear, and I was like, yeah, I'm right. Like, I was like, I knew I was kind of right. But I was like, but I even told him before he went to imaging, like, I said, I almost guarantee they're going to tell you you won't need surgery and that you'll be able to train around it. And that's kind of what they told him. They're like, yeah, you won't need surgery, but we don't want you to train. We want you to go to physical therapy for X amount of weeks. He's like, I don't even know how long it's going to be, so I can't train. So I wrote him back, and I was like, listen, I'm going to defer to the people with more letters next to their name. Like, they're the ones that are treating you. Like, I'm not a physical therapist, but I will say this. You have another leg, you have a core, you have an upper body. Like, we can still train. Please, like, tell your physical therapist that you're not training with a moron. Like, you're with a coach that knows what he's talking about. I was like, I will defer to them. Like, I'm not telling you that you have to come train, but we can definitely train around this injury. We've already been doing it. I mean, his hip was already feeling better. Like, he was training pain-free. It was just sure. Every now and then it would flare up. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast when you're talking lower back pain or whatever.
I think particularly with athletes, that's got to be, they just can't completely shut down.
No, rest is rarely the answer, right? I mean,
yes, they're going to get injured in a different way because they're detrained. So anyway, well, let's go to the big finish. I always like to finish with if you could create one rite of passage for all our society, what would it be? Tony Gentilcore is setting up the rite of passage that will create the greatest generation ever.
Oh man, I would say read a book. Like, seriously. Like, I mean, I think Eric posted something on his Instagram. Eric Cressey posted something on his Instagram the other day saying how the average teenager reads like maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes a day.
And it's probably on their phone.
Read a book, honestly. Yeah. Like, I think the reading is it's important.
Certainly.
Yeah. And not only that, like, read variety. Like, I mean, you and I are strength and conditioning geeks, so of course we're going to read a lot in our field. But I would encourage, like, I'm in my bedroom right now doing this podcast. My nightstand's right there. I have Richard Dawkins' latest book next to my bed, right? So I read that. I'm usually reading like some kind of like fiction. There's like 3 or 4 books that I read at a time that are kind of in rotation. So adding variety to your reading, like, read nonfiction, read fiction. Like, it's all good. It's reading. But yeah, I just think that I just wish people would read.
I think it's a keystone habit.
Yeah,
no doubt about it at all. So what are you reading right now?
So right now I'm reading Science of the Soul by Richard Dawkins. It's his latest book. I'm reading several ebooks. I have them here on my computer. Like I said, I was reading Eric Helm's program design book, which is really, really good. And I'm usually always reading some kind of like book on writing or some kind of like business related book. But yeah, like the one that's on my nightstand right now is that Richard Dawkins book. But like I said, there's usually 3 or 4 that are in rotation.
Right on. Is it the one book that everyone has to read?
Let me think. It doesn't have to be like strength and conditioning or anything like that.
Not at all. One wouldn't be.
I think my favorite book of all time, or there's probably 2 of them. The cliched answer is going to be To Kill a Mockingbird, and then the other one is A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by David Eggers. It's an autobiography. I just like it a lot because it's a really well written book, and I appreciated the humor in it. But it's basically David Eggers, who is now a pretty prominent author / screenwriter. He's written a lot of Hollywood movies. His first book was called A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius, which is a fucking awesome title. But basically, if I remember correctly, both of his parents died at a young age, and he was the guardian of his younger brother. And it was basically talking about the trials and tribulations of being pretty young himself, but given this responsibility of being the guardian to his brother, and like how that kind of affected his professional life and his social life. And I just think it's a great book. So that would be one that I'd recommend.
Cool. Well, Tony, thanks so much. You've been awesome. You did such a great job of explaining how things are very simple, and yet how you can really separate yourself by not trying to be fancy, but with great attention to detail, with great coaching, with great buy-in, and being able to accommodate differences in the individual. So
thank you. I had good mentors, and I surrounded myself with quality individuals. So I give a lot of credit to them. So, but thank you. That is very kind of you to say.
It's been awesome, Tony. Everyone needs to definitely get over to TonyGentilcore.com.
Please.
It's a good read. It's a guaranteed good read any day. We'll be talking to you later, Tony. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay.